All right, everybody, welcome to Middle School Mayhem. Thank you for joining us for this professional learning opportunity. My name is Laura MacDonald, and I am the Director of Professional Learning here at NCEA, and I will be helping to facilitate today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping notes. You might notice at the bottom of this screen, you should see Q&A. That is what we're going to use today. Should you have questions during the session, go ahead and type them in, and we will be watching that as the webinar goes today. Also, at the end, I'm going to share a link. That's a link to a survey. Please complete the survey. We get feedback that we take very seriously. We will share it with our presenters as well, so they can have your feedback. And also, you'll have an opportunity to leave your email at the end of that survey. If you do that, you will then get a certification that you completed this session. So if you need that sort of documentation, that'll be available to you. So today's webinar, as you can see on the screen, is Middle School Mayhem, and it's part of our summer webinar inspired by the great, most popular sessions at NCEA 2023 convention. And if you came in late, just reminding you that we are recording today's session. So Dr. Patricia McCormick is an international formation education consultant and public speaker, and she happens to be a principal on the side. She's a busy lady. She authored the Parent Partnership Handbook and numerous other articles and video series, The Parent Chat with Sister Pat, and 12 books. Her most recent publication, Empowering the Parking Lot Parent, completes a parking lot parent trilogy. And additionally, her ministry includes parent presentations, workshops, retreats, in-services, you name it, she's done it. Her public speaking style blends Catholic spirituality, psychology, wisdom gathered from parents, teachers, and students. And before I turn over to our wonderful presenter today, let's begin as we begin all things in prayer. So please join me in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, I pray for positive relationships between the teachers in our communities and the students they serve each day. I pray that there will be mutual love, respect, and honor for one another. May the children know and understand that their teachers care for them and desire what is best for them. May the students and teachers work together for the growth and development of the students, and may they succeed and accomplish many great things in their lives. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And now I give you Sister Pat.
Thank you very much, Laura, and thank you for joining me today. I hope that this session will be a shot in the arm for you. We had so much fun at NCEA with it. We were laughing so loudly that the day after, people were stopping and telling me that their friends were saying, what was going on in that room? We could hear, 2 doors down. We're laughing because we all know how true the things I'm going to share with you. It's just what we deal with. And I hope to be able to give you a shot in the arm for dealing with that. A very basic background for you, though, is for 18, 20 years, I was a middle school teacher. So I'm coming from that vantage point. But very recently, the Lord saw fit to give me new information. Long story short, very long story short, there was a school in Havertown, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia, and the principal and the superintendent felt that things were not going well. And so they hired me to come in as a consultant. They wanted to know if I could go into the middle school and advise them and the students and the teachers, is there anything I could do to help the middle school? Well, what we came up with is that I would come in for 8 days, not necessarily all day long, but 8 different times within the month of January. I would visit the school. I would work with students. I would work with teachers. I would collect data, and I would make a little report or whatever. The very first day I walked in, first of all, I didn't believe what they were telling me. I thought they certainly are exaggerating until I got there. The very first day, I walked straight up to the middle school hall, and what I saw was only can be described as mayhem. If any of the words on my slide right now ring a bell to you, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But in my entire life experience, I have never experienced this. I walked up at the time that the PA announcements were going on, leading the school in prayer. And instead of seeing the students standing respectfully praying, there were students in the hallway. They were high-fiving. They had their computers out. They're talking in the classroom. They're walking around. The teacher is also on an iPhone. This is when prayers were going on. I never saw anything like this in my life. So this was my challenge. What could I do to fix that? I have to say and remind you that this is right after COVID. And so, you know, things were very different during COVID. And what I can now realize is the teachers weren't sure of how to handle the situation better. They were doing the best they can, and I think they're noble and heroic. But they really let themselves be pushed against the wall. They really let go of their authority or their leadership to take a stand. And so what had to happen was helping students and teachers come together on the same page. I'm able to speak to you now about this because we did it successfully. So if you have any sense of mayhem in your school or your classroom, or you know someone who does, clue them into this particular presentation because there may be some helps along the way. Truly, I have witnessed, the school has witnessed, that the school has moved from mayhem to being managed to now being respectfully engaged. Our children are very respectful. They're very self-controlled. They are exactly what you would want them to be. And there's no rigidity. There's not a, I have to be this way. No, we have actually moved through management to being respectfully engaged. And I think I know some of the reasons why, and that's what I want to share with you today. To be quite honest, an hour is never going to be enough for us. So I'll just be highlighting. And know that everything I'm going to say to you today is the way my personality handled it. Your personality can handle it differently. Let's agree on the elements. And then the specific way you do it through your personality can be different than my way, as long as we're both hitting the elements that are needed in order to have children engaged in a respectful manner in everything they do. Here's where I started. I took the handbook of the school, and in the school handbook were the words that students, through their personal witness and achievements, students glorify God and lead others to the truth. It's beautiful words. Then it says, students of Sacred Heart School commit themselves to be peacemakers, servant leaders, community builders, and zealous learners in the practice of the virtues of respect, generosity, hospitality, kindness, and industry. So in that packed sentence, the handbook spelled out what the mission statement is for students. It spells out what the code of conduct is. And yet when I met student after student and asked, what is the code of conduct, or how does it fit the code of conduct? They had no idea what I was talking about. What code of conduct? They didn't even know they had a code of conduct. Lesson for you and me. Just because you and I write it in the handbook doesn't mean the people have read it and believe it. We have to promulgate whatever it is, whatever your practices are, whatever discipline element that you have. You need to be able to explain it, practice it, post it, have it become real. Because en masse, the students in the middle school did not know these words, but it was in their handbook. So here's what I did. I got the student council first. And I told them that I read the handbook, and these 4 elements are in the handbook: peacemaker, servant leader, community builder, zealous learner. I said, let's brainstorm. Give me examples of what would it look like if I was a peacemaker? What would it look like if I'm being a zealous learner? And so I don't expect you to read all the things that are on the sheet right now, but I have it available to you for free on my website that you'll be able to have copies of everything I'm talking about today. Don't worry about taking notes. Everything that's important, I already have on a handout for you, and I'll tell you later how to get it. So these specifics are what they wrote. If you and I wrote it, we were probably limited to 3 or 5, but they went to town. They listed exactly what they thought it should be. came from the students. Similarly, we summarized it and said, well, the code says we're respectful. What would respect look like? And they named the kinds of things that you and I would expect. And you can see those in the blue box. But most importantly for you and me today, is I said, in that case, what does the lack of respect look like? God bless those kids. They really went to town. They listed all the things I saw in my 8 days of visiting. Acting rude, bored, sleeping, defiant. Do you have any of those in your school? Inattention, disruptive during class, ignoring and disregarding teachers and students, disturbing classmates, lack of study or preparation for tests, causing distractions with weird noises and calling out. Have anybody that? I'm not going to bore you. You and I could write this page ourselves. The best part is I didn't have to write this page. Students wrote this. The students identified what kinds of behaviors they thought were acceptable and what was not. So the students who were fed up with the way things were going finally had a voice. Whatever your handbook says, use it. Get the children engaged in naming how to enflesh it. Then it's their words promulgated. So when this much was done, I then went to each of the classes, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, and gave them a copy of what I just showed you. We talked about it. We actually took time to read each one of those out loud. So I was a witness that we all heard the same words. And then if any student wanted to add anything to the list, they could add. I then took that, typed it up, and gave it in one sheet, two-sided, but one sheet. Every child got a copy. And at the bottom, notice there's a chance for the student to put their name, their signature, meaning they did read this, and a place for the parents to sign. If I had to do again, I would do all this again, only I would have had a parent meeting at the end, and I would have presented this information to parents, and right then had a signature. I would have added that parent piece. But by the time I got to the end of the 8 sessions, I thought it was overkill. So I didn't do anything more about it. But why was it overkill? Because after the students were in service on this, we then had an assembly of all 6th, 7th, 8th grade, the pastor, the superintendent, the principal, me, their teachers, all together. And we didn't rehash all this because they knew this part, but we picked up from here to say, how many know about 3 outs? Three strikes in baseball. Somebody raised their hand. I said, what is it? He says, 3 strikes and you're out. I said, right. So let's call this strike 1. Strike 1 was what caused me to come and have you define for me how we ought to be living if we are Catholic Christians in a Catholic school. And you did. Strike 2 will be if anyone chooses not to act according to the way your own students said we should be acting. And a 3rd strike, we probably have to move into somebody else's school because this school is going to stand by the handbook. And this is what the handbook says. Let me speed ahead for a moment. I'm going to give you some other examples, but let me speed ahead to say this to you. At the end of my 8 visits, my last visit ended with the 8th grade, where I did a presentation like I do around the country with other 8th graders. And during that presentation, I saw that they were exactly the way I know 8th graders to be. Their eyes were bright. They were cooperative. They were right into the presentation, the way you would expect, or the way I expect, because I deal with kids all the time. And when I saw, I thought, oh, I wish I could stay and be their teachers. Honestly, I saw in that moment the great potential. So I left being very, very happy. Get in the car. I'm driving home. And I'm unpacking, why did it go so well? Today really went well. And with that, I heard a gentle voice that every now and then in my life, I've actually heard a whisper. And the whisper was, stay with them. And I thought, stay with them. And like maybe be a substitute. I can be a substitute teacher for them. But my real work is this. What you and I are doing right now is my real work. I had no interest to joining an elementary school. I heard to stay with them. Teachers, the very next day, was the Mass for Catholic Schools week to end the week. And the pastor asked me to please come to that, to be part of it. So I did. At that Mass, the principal let Father know she was supposed to be leaving in April to have a baby, but she really needed to end now, and that this would be her last day. In that moment, he is without a principal in this school where this mayhem is going on. But I happen to be free because of COVID. I wasn't running around the country. So I said to him, Father, if you need me to do it, I can come in until June and give you good time to find a really good principal. Well, I forgot to say what year of June. So here I am this year also, and I'm going to be there next year too. My only sorrow is that I'm not younger, because I would love to stay there for 10 years. I'm loving it. What a difference from my first experience. So I now become the principal. I walk in. Within 1 week, the entire school was back to the way we know a Catholic school ought to be. We were respectful. We were quiet at the right times, talking at the right time. Wonderful, wonderful. And it's never stopped. We got back one keel, which tells you not about me. It tells you about our students. They wanted the direction. They wanted the limits. They wanted the boundaries. They wanted somebody to be the adult in the room. Unfortunately, I have to say, you and I are often the cause of the upset. You and I need to be clear about who it is we are, what we're there to do. If we're working with other people in a unit, that we're all on the same page. That even if I don't particularly like what we're going to do together, I'll stand by because the three of us said we'll do it. And stick to our guns. And when we can do that, children fall into place. Working with the teachers was very important in this, because it started by saying the kids, but I soon realized the kids would respond to whoever was really leading, and they really did. So take encouragement from that. You and I are the leaders. Every day that school says this pledge, I didn't make it up, it was already in their book. So every day we say as a reminder of who we are and who we're called to be. Another school I've dealt with, they use this pledge. I'll give you a moment to read it.
As they're reading it, sister, we do have a question. Someone would like to know what you will do in subsequent years to reinforce the good behavior and boundaries that you're setting forth with the code of conduct.
Terrific question, because if it depends only on me, that's a mistake. We have to have a culture where the teachers buy in, where we know what the culture is. So specifically to answer your question, last summer, I began the culture part of our handbook. I'm adding to it this year. I've been working with the teachers throughout the year, and we're all in agreement. What we have, we're all in agreement with. I'm codifying it. So whoever is the principal knows what this school has said is the way we do things. The new principal can add their own personality, of course. Each teacher adds their own personality, but the core of who we are should stay the same no matter who's at the helm. So I hope that's an answer to you. I am codifying, I'm putting in print what it is that we've come up with. For instance, how we do our copybooks, what a line looks like, outside voices versus inside voices, and talking about what that means. Specifying what it is that about us that makes us be effective and efficient and one and like the Sacred Heart. Is that answer enough for that person? And if not, right back. So one school does it this way. Another school, I had the opportunity to be with this high school a few years ago. The principal or anybody can call out Don Bosco students every day, and the kids will be in chorus. We are to treat others as we would treat Jesus Christ, with all of our heart and mind and soul. The interesting thing here is, while I was visiting there, a parent told me that she was at a weekend game that included students from the school, and somebody in the bleachers yelled out, Don Bosco students every day. And from all the corners, wherever the kids were, They came out with their quip, even though they were on a weekend game. What a marvelous thing. Can you and I, with the kids involved, not do it instead of them, come up with a motto that summarizes it, who it is we say we want to be, and make that our mantra? Will it work for everybody? No, there's nothing that works for everybody, but more people will be helped than not. I believe in the old motto, to throw enough mud and some will stick. Let's throw the mud of who it is we say we are in a modern way. Get the kids involved in writing it so they own it. That's another part to the of an answer to the question that just came. Unless we all own it, it's going to fall apart the minute I leave the school. It shouldn't depend on me. So I need to continue in servicing. When new teachers come, lead teachers who have already know the culture need to be having certain appointment times to bring the new person up to code to understand what we're all about. There has to be ongoing passing on the vision, passing on the values. Long answer. So now here's where the fun came. I shared with the teachers during NCEA 8 documents that I'm going to share with you, and they are available for free on my website. Because I need to give the teachers some tools. Like, how do we go from this to that? Yeah, so here's my suggestion. I'll repeat this in the end, but you can see now my email that you can write to me personally. But I'm going to give you my website at the end, because these documents are on the website. You just can download them. Some examples. I developed when I was an 8th grade teacher, I developed this, and now I gave it to these teachers to do their own. This is my sample. Your sample would be different because your personality is different. But I have in my classroom something I call an infraction essay. This paper is already typed up. They're sitting in a folder in case I ever need them. So that if something comes up that needs a response right now, but I'm in the middle of teaching or whatever, I don't have to worry about how to handle it. I just continue teaching as I walk over, pick up this paper from my folder, come back, put it on your desk, and I continue teaching. I'm still lovely. And all the kids are wondering what you got. Once one of them gets it, they all know what this is. And I never even have to advertise. I don't say, now, if you're not good, you're going to get this paper. No, I never go through any of that. I just continue teaching, get the paper, put it on your desk, and I continue. But here's what it says. Again, this is based on my personality. You would change yours. Standard behavioral expectations in the classroom include: enter quietly through the front door and leave quietly through the back door. Limit speaking tones to a level of 3/10. I'll talk about that in a moment. Settle quickly and begin the transition exercise silently and independently. Stand for prayer and participate with attention and reverence. Remain seated on task and respectfully quiet throughout the class period. Raise hand to obtain permission to stand, walk around, leave the classroom, act in a manner of peacemaker, servant, leader. Okay, so it spells out what the standard in my classroom is. Therefore, when the child is going to have to explain to the parents what happened, I'm not going to have to repeat this all. It's already there. This is what I expect in the classroom. So now you, the child, have to, number 1, copy that paragraph. 2, skip 2 lines and write an essay, minimum of 150 words, that includes the following points: the behavior for which you were corrected. If you believe yourself to be innocent, then explain the behavior from the teacher's perspective. So either way, you're going to write. Number 2, how that behavior differs from the stated standard behavior. 3, how can you change the behavior to be in compliance with Sacred Heart standard behavior? And how would you make restitution or reconciliation? Teachers, it's going to take an hour to do that essay at home, not during my school time. Then number 3, type the above assignment, or if you choose to handwrite it, use ink, best penmanship without crossouts, and observe margins. You might say, sister, why all these particulars? Be as particular as you can be. Whatever you think, they'll say, oh, but I didn't know. I put it in there so we all know this is what has to be. In the end, obtain a parent's signature and then staple this paper onto your paragraph and hand it in tomorrow. In my experience, I've never had to do that more than twice. once word gets out that this exists easily in my folder, that is the end of the trouble. Something like that might help you. Then I got more creative as time went on in my life. And I created something called the extra educational opportunities, EEOs. Because, sometimes people say, well, they had to write 15 times that they wouldn't talk. That's a waste. It is a waste. Why would we ever do that? That's a waste. But these are very creative assignments where you're learning something extra. I'm giving you an opportunity to expand your horizons, and you earned it by doing a misbehavior. So the top of the paper explains how you earned one of these opportunities. And on this paper, there are 10 opportunities. I do give this out at the beginning of the year. We cut this paper to fit and we paste it into our copybook. So everybody has a copy of it for the whole year. Hopefully they will never need to use it. But if they do, all I have to do is say number 5, number 2. Or all I have to do is go to the board and my EEO put an E and they all know that's the beginning. If something else continues, another E. If a third continues, an O, EEO, okay, now it's number 5. If students know in advance what the consequences are, it helps to determine how they're going to act. Trust me, I've been around the block. I've done this many, many times. It works. But meanwhile, have fun with me. Look at the kinds of things a child might have to do. If I decide it's assignment number 1, they're going to go to the handbook. They're going to write that statement that I read to you about what the student of our school is like. Then get ready. Create a rhyming poem that summarizes the ideas expressed in the paragraph. The rhyming poem must have a minimum of 8 lines. Be prepared to recite the poem. What student wants to do that? But meanwhile, when tomorrow comes, they'll have to recite the poem. And it might bring some camaraderie in the class, not an embarrassment, but starting a camaraderie as the year goes on to be able to say, hey, such and such. It can become a stepping point for connecting. Doesn't mean being mean and ugly and aren't you glad? No. Consequences, they knew in advance a consequence would come. What they didn't know is what number. So instead, I might give them number 8. Name 10 qualities or characteristics of Mary's personality. Then find those words in a magazine or a newspaper, or cut the letters out from a magazine and newspaper to make the words. Paste those and put them on the paper. Or here, what are 5 friend qualities that you look for in a person? List the 5 qualities, write a definition of each quality, and create a bookmarker. You could have fun just creating what these assignments would be. And again, in my experience, I've never had to go more than twice. Once students know what the setup is and I stay consistent, you and I need to be consistent in what we say. Don't give in. Be lovely. Don't get ugly and puffy. Be lovely, but stay consistent. True story. A sister friend of mine was a 3rd grade teacher. And overnight, she became the 6th grade teacher. And she was scared of the kids. Well, the kids can smell that. The kids know when they've got us over the barrel. So the kids knew she was scared and they played around with it. So eventually she called me on the phone. She told me, all the trouble she was having. Could I give her any suggestions for discipline? So I told her whatever it was I told her. And I said, let me know how things are going. So, pardon me. A little bit later, she contacts me to tell me that's really working. Oh, good, I'm glad. But here it comes. She said that after she explained the new policy based on what I had said to her, they had recess time. So they all went out for recess, but one of her girls, who was a bright light, was still in the room. So she said to the girl, what do you think about our new arrangement for discipline? Do you think it will work? Get ready. The 6th grade child said, yes, sister, it will work. But so would the other 3 if you had kept them. Don't give up just because they give us pressure. They're going to push the envelope. Think before we speak. Design what we want to design. and stick to it. If even you think it's stupid in time, then when you come to the next trimester or quarter or whatever you have, you say, we're ready for part 2. In this semester, we do it this way. Make it sound as though from all eternity, you always had the plan for this number 2 and now number 3. But don't give in just because the pressure's there. They live in a world where they know how to wear people down. You and I can't be worn down. We need to keep the smile up, keep the energy up, be still loving them, still play ball with them, still do cards with them, still jump rope with them, still find out whose boyfriend is whose girl. All that stuff we continue. But meanwhile, you didn't hand your paper in. Oh, well, that's a 60. That needs to be our attitude. Another paper that I won't take time to go into all this because we have other important things to say, but I have a paper available for you that spells out what a child needs to do to cooperate. And then it's signed off what the student will do, what the parent will do, and what I, the teacher, will do in order to have success in the class. When you get a copy, you look at it, you may say, well, I don't need this one. Then don't use that one. Or replace it with what you need in your situation. Your situation is not my situation.
Sister Pat, we have a couple questions here. I'll go ahead and read them. That way I don't think our participants can see them. So the one I think you may have kind of answered from Melody is, what would happen if the student never turned the paper back to you? And then the other is, have you had teachers who were verbally on board with the code of conduct but struggled to implement and enforce in real time? And so some suggestions on that. And then with the essays, did some students struggle to turn them in? And if so, what happened next? So I'll leave you with those questions.
Well, this next slide answers part of that. Again, we get creative with that, because why should I now have to spend after school because you didn't turn the paper in that we were supposed to turn in? No, with my teacher partners, we would agree what our policy was. And it might be something like this, that we have makeup Mondays or teachable Tuesdays, or wish I had done it Wednesdays, or thought-filled Thursdays, or finalizing Fridays, but you're crazy if you stay on Friday, but that's your business, or soul-searching Saturdays. In my classroom, the very first month, we have retreat, the nuns have retreat on the first weekend of every month. So we have to be home anyhow. So it was no problem for me to have you have to come for detention with me on a Saturday, no problem at all for me. So I used to let things happen so I could get people on detention the first Saturday of September, or it may have had to be October. And once kids know it really happens, that's the end of that. So anyway, to answer the question, instead of all of us having to scramble to take care of the child who didn't hand this in, didn't do that, or has a test to redo, or was out and has to make up this, could we agree among ourselves? Suppose there were, let's say there were 4 of us, that I take the first week, you take the second week, she takes the third week, he takes the 4th week. And on that one day of the week, whatever weekday we said, all the children from the middle school who have anything to make up, or the one who didn't do their paragraph, they're going to sit here now and do the paragraph. As long as we have something in place like this, it takes all the pressure off. In the end, what the child is learning is how to name, claim, and tame his own behavior. And we stay lovely. I'm not mad about it. Apparently you chose to have a wish you had done it Wednesday with me. You're welcome in, come on in. We'll be here for an hour. And meanwhile, charge a fee to come, maybe $5 a child. You say, oh, sister, I couldn't. Yes, you can. Make up your mind how to do it, because this is your after school time and you didn't do anything wrong. You're giving these children the benefit of your time and talent, so they are learning that every choice they make has a consequence. Something like that is my creative answer for you for one of those questions, but I already forget the first question. What was that first question? Maybe from a Melody?
The first question was the one about what happens if student never turns in the paper.
Okay, and so it would be that they would come to this week to do it and do it right then. Or if it's better for you and your school to have a lunchtime recess. Again, I'm not going to be taking recess every day. but I'd be willing to do once a month, 1 day a week or whatever. Establish something where that student has to do that. In our school, they absolutely positively love our physical education. And she's marvelous. You would want to be there. If I needed to, and we don't need to do this, but if I needed to, they could come to my office to do their paragraph instead of having a PE. If you keep saying, well, I've got no way to do it, then get creative. Get a creative way that will honor your needs, honor the child's needs. It makes it fair. We all know from the get-go. Also, in our school right now, what our policy is, this could change. We're still up with it. But if a student doesn't hand in homework or an whatever assignment, they have until the next day. If they hand in that next day, we give them a 70. But if they don't hand in next day, they have a failure. It's a 60. And we actually keep those grades, and that is going to affect them. Then we have a thing called option C. You may have fax, you may have whatever, a student information system. In our school, our policy in writing is that we first correct the normal way, a look from me, stopping to speak and looking at you like, can I continue? Maybe calling your name out, those normal things. But that after we go through normal, then we have a warning, and we actually write home an option C. We don't take any points off yet. We just say a warning. This behavior is continuing after having been corrected. If that continues, then it is taking points off. And then in our system, if you have 4 points, a negative 4 points, you get a detention. If you get 2 detentions in a trimester, you have a suspension. If you accumulate suspensions, unfortunately, that does lead to expulsion. We don't want to get there, but it's in the book in case we need to do that. So that's a long-winded answer to say, just get creative. Decide what you're going to do about that. Is it enough just to give? Because some child would say, well, I don't care if I got the failure. Okay. Then let it be. If that's your rule, then just let it be. Don't huff and puff about it. But I believe that whether they get the credit or not, they have to make up the work. So in my classroom, they would be there doing that work. How I did it, whether I had to do it every week myself or not. But in my classroom, students do have to do the work at the right time or out of time, but not doing is not an option in my class. And in this school, we're making it not an option either. That's one of the things that everybody would have to be on board and stick by. So the other question that was asked is a very tender question. Suppose we all give lip service. Suppose all 4 teachers say, oh, yes, we'll do this. And then this one doesn't. It ruins the whole system. It breaks down because then it is unfair. As soon as kids can say, well, if you're in Mrs. So-and-so class, you don't have to do it. And for that, I say the principal, first, you among yourselves try to talk to each other about sticking with each other. And if you can't do it, then the principal has to be able to come in to say, this has to be, and I will show you how to do it. Maybe that teacher needs in service for how to do it. But if we're not all on board, the child loses. And we are here for the children. We're not here for ourselves. We are here to form those children. And to have formation for them, we have to give them consistency. If you need more of an answer, please let me know. Just this year, we came up with this because we have 3 students who need it. Well, 3 out of 60 is not bad, but we have 3 who need it, who repeatedly are a distraction to the classroom. And so they have a behavioral plan like this. All the teacher has to do is initial it. And the key says a Y means there was 1 offense after a reminder. The N means there were 2 or more times after. So all the teacher has to do is either initial it, meaning great day, or put a Y or an N. They're not writing a letter. The child has to bring it to the teacher. And each period does it. At the end of the week, the parent signs it. So there could be no problem later on. If it leads to suspension, there'd be no more problem. You saw what was happening. You saw, and you needed to take care of it the way we told you to take care of it. It's just a sample. Another school I was with, they had multiple teachers, and they made a progress report up for all the days of the week that would be involved in that particular quarter or trimester, whatever. This was a quarter. And there they marked for effort and conduct and for homework. It was supposed to be that the block would stay blank, meaning you were great. But if you weren't great, all I did was put a C if it was conduct and SPM for my initials. If it was homework, and H and SPM for my initials. So again, it's not taking tons of time on the teacher part. If you create things that are going to take tons of time for you, you'll never get them done. And then we start really resenting that we're using our precious time for this nonsense. And it is nonsense. But that child needs to be formed. So you and I have to find creative ways that are doing the formation without us paying the price. Get creative about it. Another school worked it out that they listed what they would consider the privileges that they would be giving to the middle school. And the students had to, through good behavior, through what expected behavior, through the norm behavior, which the students named. All the words here, by the way, came out from the students. I worked with the school, and those students came out with the words here that they considered reasonable and they considered unreasonable, right there in their own words. And so for every day that the child chose to act the way they can in a good way, they got positive points. And then you need so many by this date in order to go to this trip. You need so many from this date in order to go to the dance. You need so many from this to have a movie afternoon. Get creative in what the payoffs can be. And that way children are earning their way to that. And those who didn't, one of the teachers has to give up that privilege to stay with those kids who didn't, while the others go and have fun. We have to be willing to pay that price. That was one thing that one school did, and it worked for them. So these kinds of things are what I have available to you. And you tally them your own way. This has been a big plus to the kids. The kids love this. The teachers aren't as happy about it, to tell you the truth. But I believe that children need to have the opportunity to make choice and consequence. Let the games begin. So one of my pet peeves is we're not running out to the bathroom in the middle of class period. We have time before school. We have a morning recess. We have a lunch recess. There should not be a reason to run to the bathroom normally. There may be an exception, but I saw that the rule was people running. No, we're not doing it. So I created these coupons. During this one trimester, the child got this one piece of paper that gave them 5 coupons on it. If they wanted to go to the restroom during a class time, they had to give up a coupon to do that. Well, they could go out of the room 5 times if they want, right? But when you see that instead of using this for something frivolous, I could instead get 5 points added to a test or a quiz. Or I could replace my lowest grade with a 100%. What? It's not every grade. It's one grade, one time. Creates good PR, gives power to the child. Anyway, each of these has things that they could do. So instead of using them for the bathroom, they can be using them for something else. They can staple into a homework that wasn't turned in the right day and not have the points taken off. Each one says something different. You would decide what they say. And then the colored block that you're looking at says that at the end of the trimester, if you have any coupons left, the hope is you do, you can cash them in for prizes. If you have 5 of them, you can have a homework pass for one night for all your written subjects. If you have 4 of them, you can get a $5 gift card from the principal for Wawa or Dunkin'. Or if you have 3 of them, you can have a lunchtime board game with your friends. If you have 2 of them, you can have free hot lunch. This is not going to break the bank, but it gives them an opportunity of bargaining for themselves and learning how best to use it. Not everybody's favorite. Not all the teachers are happy. Not all the teachers are happy with it. They're going along with it, but they're not real happy with it. But the kids love it. A little bit here, a little bit there. We have Crusader tickets. In our school this year, the theme was above and beyond, because every one of us is already a Crusader. Every one of us does those 4 characteristics. But when somebody goes above and beyond, here's a red Crusader ticket, and it goes into a big bowl that we have sitting on a special place in the school. And then once a month on Mass Day, I scroll around it, I pull the winner, and the winner gets to do from this choice of things, what do you want? The big thing right now they're all choosing is one of the prizes is they can get a milkshake for themselves and a friend. And so our secretary on Fridays goes to McDonald's and brings these milkshakes home to the 1 or 2 students who want it. But these are just other ideas that the children suggest. I didn't make them up. I got the kids to tell me what kinds of things would be celebrations for them. And so they can roll the die, and if it comes out to a certain number, they get this prize, that prize. It just adds a little fun. It adds something nice. The kids love doing it. And so are they all getting a prize? No. Whose ever name got pulled out for the primary, for the intermediate, and for the junior high. And these are the kinds of things presently that they're getting. But I'd say number 5 is the real winner so far. They're all loving having the milkshake delivered, wouldn't you? Enough of those practical things. Take them, use them, adapt them, change it around. They have truly helped me in my life. I give them to you. But with our little bit of time left, I want to give us a context really for discipline. What is the primary purpose of the Catholic school? The information they can get anywhere, including the internet. It's the formation. You and I are forming their character. We're forming their souls. We're forming their thinking. We're forming their ability to be responsive and responsible. That is our primary mission. So we're creating disciples. A disciple is a learner, a person who sat at the feet of Christ and learned from what he had to say and then went out to do it. So you and I are forming disciples. And that means that we have to give them a code to follow and a reason for following it, and keep using that language. Whatever language is working, use that language. If, as a teacher, more times than not, I am instructive, I don't need to give paragraphs. A phrase can be enough, but I'm letting you know ahead of time what it is that's coming up or what do I expect of you. Am I instructive? Am I respectful? Do I speak to the student in a tone of voice that allows the student to feel respected and allows the student to know there's a time to be able to speak back and a way to speak back? Am I proactive? The things that I think can go wrong, make a plan ahead of time for those things. Be proactive. Don't wait until the problem. Any one of us who has finished 1 year of teaching knows there are a million things we would like to do differently. So we get proactive about that. And positive. Research shows that if you and I regularly operate in this fashion, then what develops in the child is the child becomes a person who's inner directed. It shouldn't depend on having you and me present for that child to make a good decision. If you and I are forming disciples, we're helping them to become people who from within themselves sense what is life-giving and what is life-blocking. Inner directed, not needing prizes, not needing bribery, and don't ever bribe. Not needing praise, don't praise. Encourage, yes. Praise, bunch of fluff. To be inner directed, to be responsible, step up to the plate, make a decision, live with the consequences. To respond to people. Right before COVID in my travels, I was getting alarmed at how many children won't make eye contact. And now it's even worse that they're all into their electronics and it's hard to make eye contact or have a conversation with somebody. If you're hearing that ring, that's just my reminder that I have only 15 minutes left and I have to run. So, and cooperative. If a disciple of Jesus fits this right-hand column of words, but that will only develop if you and I regularly, nobody's perfect, nobody's 24/7, but regularly do the students see me as a person who is instructive, respectful, proactive, and positive. If so, I am living proof that they will come along with the program. They actually respect people who are that way. On roller skates, with 15 minutes left, it's roller skates. I just want to mention the ABCs of creating a gospel-driven discipleship attitude. A, accentuate the positive. Don't be a growler. Don't be a whiner. Don't be trying to find ways to get them in trouble. They're going to get in trouble on their own. They don't need you and me to help them. Instead, can I be positive, purposeful, enthusiastic, and proud? Everything about me and my classroom and my way of interaction, can it be positive? Do I know the theory? Can I blend theory with practice? And then am I building community? ABCs. They're very quickly. Accentuate the positive. Yourself. Say what you mean what you say, think before you speak. If you don't mean it, don't say it. If you're not going to be able to follow through, don't say it. No double standards. What we ask of them, you and I also have to do, and everybody else has to do them. Human nature can have favorites, but I can never afford to give in to that, showing that. So if I expect this of John, I must also expect it of Susan, even though Susan's always a dream. They both have to be treated fairly. I have to be consistent, not rigid, but consistent enough that they know what they're up against. They need the security. And it comes when you and I are consistent and follow through. To focus on the present, let the past go. Don't keep talking about last year's class or what they did last month. Or let the past be past. Focus on the present so the future is a happy future. If you or I are in a bad mood and we have our days, find a way to prayerfully give that over to the Holy Spirit, because our moods should not dominate the classroom. The students are not there to take care of us. We are there to take care of them. Be positive. Use humor whenever possible. Not sarcasm, but humor. Use humor. I had an example just this year. A group of boys were doing a project in science. And this group were in trouble more often than other kids, okay? That's the background for the teacher. And when they did their little project, they found a picture somewhere. It wasn't anybody they knew. It was just a picture, a random picture. They called him George. And they had George showing up every now in their slide presentation. And at the last slide, they had George saying, "We thank you." The teacher hit the ceiling because George was irreverent. This is what the project was supposed to be. She went on and on and on and on. As the principal, I certainly had to back her. But when I got rid of the kids, I said to her, personalities are different. If this were my personality, I would have turned that around into a joke. I would have handed the papers out. And I would have, when it came to that group, the group would have had maybe a C. And would write on there, but George gets an A. I would have made a fun thing about George, to the point that at graduation, I would have actually given an award out to George, and we'd have that laughter. Laughter goes a long way. You and I need to adjust to be positive, enthusiastic, focused. We are not their girlfriend. We're not their mommy. We're not their aunt. You and I are true north. We need to be the person who doesn't sway with the wind, and the person who's there for them. They should not know our personal life, our personal business. I'll save it off. I could say hours about that one, but I won't. Save the big guns as the last resort. The principal should be the last person you deal with. Deal with your own problems. Dr. Seuss made the comment that sometimes you'll never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Deal with the moment in the best way you can, in the most loving, the compassion, the teachable moment. So when it becomes a memory, they look back and say, "Oh, I really appreciate the way sister handled me. She could have killed me, but instead she did such and such." How different if they look back and say, "I'll never send my kids to a Catholic school. I'll never make them have to put up with what I put up with, that none." The way I will handle this moment is going to make a difference for their future. Keep saying to yourself, it's only a moment. We're still in school, by the way. I have 4 more days of school. And I'm saying to myself, it's only a day. It's only a day. It's only a half day, actually. Bring a being mindset, a be attitude. What's your attitude? Be it. So be open, be approachable, be a listener, be accepting. All these B's you see here, which we could talk about, and we have no time. Bring a be attitude to your ministry. Take some time to refresh over the summer, renew. Get back in touch with what made it fun. You and I need to love what we're doing or leave what we're doing, because we're not benefiting and the students are not benefiting. If we are dragging ourselves through this, if every day is a torture, if we see more negative than positive, it's time for us to get another ministry or just get a break, maybe with another grade level. But if you're not loving it, get out of it. It's hard enough when we love it. We have to love them, and love and like are two different words. I may not like what they do, but I have to love, give that second chance, give the forgiveness, give the compassion, give the way of going. Be who you say you are. We are Catholic educators, be it. It's a vocation, it's a call. You're certainly not doing it for the money. You're not getting the money. So be who we say we are. Be what Jesus needs us to be. They need to see Jesus through us. The way we act needs to be something that will make them think, well, gosh, maybe this Jesus stuff is real. We have a contract, live our contract. You have a faculty handbook, know what's in it, be attentive to it. Be a team player. All this comes together for our good. If we choose to be a maverick, it shows and the thing fails. And be a partner to parents. Keep them in the loop. Take the time to reach out and make that phone call. It creates a rapport, and then they'll work with you instead of against you. My main work is for parents, because my research has shown that parents feel inadequate. Parents themselves say they don't know what the right answer is. Parents themselves say that you and I, the teacher, know more about kids than they do. Well, we should. We're doing year after year, right? Be their friend. Establish a rapport. I don't mean their friend. I don't mean go out drinking with them. No. I mean, be their big brother or be their big sister. Be their confidant in helping them. Get ahead of any suspicion. Any gossip that might happen, get ahead of it. When we leave a vacuum, people fill in with what they think is going on. Better that we get ahead of a situation. And if we have to say, I'm sorry, just say it outright. I'm really sorry for the way I handled that. I'm asking for a do-over, and I'm willing to give John a do-over. What do you think about that? Time is really running, so I want the last word about be resourceful. On my website, I have over 125 newsletters that were already published by today's Catholic teacher, so now they're able to be here for free on the many topics that you and I have to deal with the kids. One of those newsletters will help you with that particular parent. So go to those resources. They're free. Go to those resources. And when you're having a parent interview that's a little tough, come prepared with a newsletter that can uplift them. So we can leave them knowing that, look, they don't write these letters because one kid has this problem. They write these articles because this is typical of teenagers. So I really enjoyed it. I think you might enjoy it. Let me know if you like it. If you do, I have other articles I can send you. That's the kind of attitude we want to have. Not being their judge and jury, but shoulder to shoulder, we're both trying to do the best for this child's formation. Live your faith. Be true to what we say we are. Do not express any opinion that is opposite the Catholic Church. You might hold an opinion that's different. Keep it to yourself. You and I are empowered because the bishop of the diocese says we're allowed to teach in a Catholic school. That means I have to represent the teaching the church and no other personal pet peeve of mine. That's telling me 4 o'clock, so I have to really wrap it up. Yourself, be reasonable and balanced. Don't ask too much of yourself. Give yourself a break. And don't ask too much of them. Try to be reasonable and balanced in your own life and with the students. And in doing that, create community. John Paul II said that he thinks the basic problem we have throughout the world is that we're missing a spirituality of communion. He then did us the favor of defining what that means, and it means these 10 things. Just take a moment to let your eyes go through it. If I try to practice these very practical suggestions, What I demonstrate is that love and like are two different words. I might not like you. I might not like your behavior, but I love you. And love means I'm including you. I'm showing respect to you. I'm asking help. I'm affirming. I'm doing for you the good that you need to have done because I'm called to love. I may not like, I'm called to love. Be a person who puts the gospel values in practice. Don't have pets. Don't have one standard for one child and a different standard for the others. Let them be redeemed when they've made a mistake. Let them find a way to save face, come back into the embrace. Whatever we can do to be like Jesus. Jesus didn't take your nose and rub your nose in the dirt. He helped everybody he dealt with to be able to raise up, to name, claim, and tame what their choices were and what they would do in the future. You and I, if we're really going to be like Jesus, we have to lead our children to reconciliation. Don't let them leave you at the end of the year. And even now that if the year is already over, how about a note in the mail? Not feeling real good about the way you and I left. I want you to know I do care for you and I am here for you. So if I can help you next year, pop into my classroom. Something like that. If there's somebody who needs reconciliation, offer it. You and I need to be Jesus to them. Time is up, so I just want you to see that the website address is on this slide. The website is parentteachersupport.org. If you go to it, you'll see a choice for newsletters or handouts. You'll see a choice for handouts. Go to that choice and you'll find the handouts from today so that you can adapt them or use them in a different way that you wanted to do. With the NCEA, I have a book available that will really, this book has handouts for you, the teacher, and also for the parent to have the whole school, home and school, be on the same page for developing self-esteem in children. That's with the NCEA. With the NCEA, I have another book, Embrace the Mission. Be the I in evangelize. Be that person. It's very, very practical. It would be a great retreat book for your school. If it's too late for this year, assign it for summer reading for next year and come back ready to break it apart. It has individual questions for your own heart. It has collective questions. It has sprig ideas for how this could be developed for the whole school. Practical things for us, the teacher, that is available to you. And with the NCEA, I have a book about discipline with far more than I could possibly have hinted at today. I remain available for in-service. If I can help you in any way, I'm glad to. My email, I'm only email away. Now I'm also the principal. It's taking me a longer time to answer, but I do answer. And this was left over from our NCEA meeting. So the booth is not there anymore, but FLOM is still existing. I have with FLOM a trilogy of books for the parking lot parent and about the parking lot parent that could be of great help to you. And there is a video series now, 7 episodes for parents that take them through self-esteem and self-discipline. They really are good leads for them. So I conclude, if I can be of any help to you, that is my vocation. I am privileged to be able to walk with other teachers. So if I can help you, reach out, either email or through the website. But I think I'm 1 minute beyond, so that's not too bad. But if you have other questions, I'd be glad to answer them, Laura.
Okay, so we can watch to see if there's more questions coming in, but I added the link to the survey. It's in the chat box. You should all be able to click on it. And for those of you who missed it, that is how you can also get a certificate of completion. Complete the survey, add your email there, and we'll make sure you get it. You can see how privileged we are to have you with us today, Sister Pat. And such a privilege. And I know one of the things about when we're not in person, we don't get the warm clapping at the end, but thank you for all the great ideas, great resources. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can see why your session was so popular at convention. And I think one of the questions we had is about the link. When you receive, you're going to receive an email tomorrow, and that'll have the link to this recorded session on it. So yes, you will be able to watch it again. with someone else, they can also still go in and register and get for the recording as well. Again, such a pleasure. I think of be who you are and be that well. When I hear all your B's, and Sister Pat, I feel like that describes you. Great ideas and very authentic. And I love the reminders for everyone to be their authentic self as they lead. Thank you to everybody for joining us here today. Please remember, the most valuable resource we have is each other. So thank you, everybody.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I think we do have a question, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Oh, I already answered it. Yes, it'll be available to watch again. So thank you, everybody.
Bye now. God bless you all.